Hello everyone, my name's Hemingway Jones. Welcome to the channel. You have found your way to YouTube's favorite pentertainment site where we talk about fountain pens, inks, journals and journaling, just about anything and everything that's going to keep you inspired in writing. Now today, I'm noticing that at night and in the morning, it's starting to get a bit of that autumnal crispness, and it always reminds me of one thing. It's back to school time. So today what we're going to speak about are the best pens for back to school. Before we begin, I have to do a pen check. You can hardly see it against my shirt, but today I'm using Black Noir. Now this is the first pen I've owned that I've ever named, and it's a Pilot Vanishing Point in a very beautiful and mysterious matte black color. It is a fantastic pen. You get so much value out of this pen. It's about $160. It has a gorgeous springy 18 karat gold nib. In this case it's a medium nib. It's absolutely brilliant. It writes very smooth. It's ready with one hand operation. It's very clicky, which is also kind of fun. Perhaps not good for quiet situations, but as long as you are able to make some noise, it's a great pen. You can clip it to yourself. The one thing you might want to think about is how you're going to ergonomically work your way around the clip that's right down the middle of the center at the front of the grip. Personally, it's a great spot to anchor your first finger when you write, and I think everyone eventually gets quickly used to it. So this is a great pen, highly recommend it. So today, we're going to send you back to school with some fantastic fountain pen options that will make taking notes in class and filling out papers that much more enjoyable and interesting for you. In considering this, I'm thinking of pens that are not very expensive, so I'm going to cut the budget off at $40, and I think that $40 is probably a bit rich for many college students and many high school students, but still, I know there's a lot of you out there that are aspirational and you're very much into fountain pens, and the thought of taking a $40 pen to class is not beyond you. Also, there's some of us who work in academia. You might be going back as a professor or someone who volunteers, so these are options that would work there as well. And in thinking about this, it's a lot of pens that are very durable but fun to write with, and ones that you won't be too heartbroken should you lose one or should something happen to them. One thing to consider with all of these pens is that you're often writing on either copy paper or loose leaf paper in an academic setting, so you probably don't want too bold of a nib, literally and figuratively. So you might want to consider an extra fine or a fine that puts a little less ink down so that it doesn't feather or smear while you're taking notes and using these inferior papers. Sometimes you need to adapt your nib to your situation, and this is one such time. So I recommend a fine point or an extra fine. So let's get into it. Our first options are the budget ones, the ones under $10, and I've narrowed it down to two. I had a lot of trouble with this because there's a lot of great pens in this category. I must say I did rule some out, like the Pilot Varsity, even though the name Varsity, I mean, it just begs for academia. But it is a disposable pen, and those of you that know me know that I'm very anti-disposable pen, not to mention my vendetta against Bic pens and ballpoint pens. I just don't like the idea that a pen is a disposable item that ends up in the trash, ends up in the ocean or a landfill. It's just not my vision for pens. So I like options that are refillable, that you can use them for a prolonged period of time and perhaps have them for the rest of your life. And in that space, you have some great pens like the Platinum Preppy, which is fantastic. But the pen that really stole my heart in this price category is the adorable Pilot Kakuna. And who wouldn't want to go to class with a pen that has so much personality, with its little face winking back at you depending on what size nib? The smiley face is slightly different, but it's an absolute joy to have this pen with you in class. And it's also a fantastic writer. It's a really good pen. I personally carry it to the office sometimes. Sure, it's a little twee. There's some pastel colors there. There's even a pink one. I actually like the pink one, but my wife dispossessed it of me, but that's okay. We share pens back and forth. But it's a fantastic pen. It's an absolute joy to write with, and for that reason, I recommend that you put it in your pencil case for back to school. Do people still have pencil cases? Now, an alternative option under $10, if you want to be a bit more flashy, you have some fantastic options from China to choose from. And I'm talking about Jinhao, which has a fantastic selection of pens, including the 450, which is a very executive looking pen, which would be super fun to write with in class. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but it's a fantastically smooth pen that will make you feel quite fancy when you're in social studies or some other class taking notes. It's absolutely brilliant. Now, there are some issues with Jinhao with QC, but if you get a good one, you can be very happy with that pen for many, many years. So carrying that string forward of a more executive style pen, I'm going to recommend the Pilot Metropolitan. This pen is less than $20. It's a fantastic writer. It's a very interesting, well-crafted, has a very nice nib, and it's a great option for bringing back to school because you can toss it in your bag without too much worry. It's very discreet, it's very sleek, it'll fit into any of the little pen holders that might be in any of your bags, and it's just great to clip to a notebook or anything else and bring with you and be ready with its snap cap to write in class. We're now discussing pens that are above $20, and in this segment there are some fantastic choices, and one of the best, a pen that nearly owns academia. I know my wife used it at University in New York, and this is the Lamy Safari. The Lamy Safari is such a great pen for the campus. It's made out of high impact plastic. It's the Casio G-Shock of pens, very difficult to damage or break, and should something happen to the nib, it's super easy to just pop a new one on. So it also features a snap cap. It's very easy to pop it off, stick it on the back of the pen, post it, and begin writing very quickly and without much fuss. Now, I've used this in several nibs. I like the fine nib. It's not my favorite. I would recommend, even though it starts to add to the price, but I'd probably recommend something like the Cursive Italic nib, which is absolutely brilliant and makes your handwriting look very, very interesting. If you can allow yourself the extra $14 or so that costs, it's a fantastic add-on. But even if you don't, the fine nib is brilliant. Lamy is known for its consistency. Each pen is tested before it leaves the factory, so sometimes there's a bit of blue residue on there from them testing it. Sometimes people think that they're getting used pens, but that's just Lamy QC making sure that you get a perfect pen. They are absolutely brilliant. They're light, they're tough. You can toss them in a bag without much fuss, and they're just a joy to write with. The Lamy Safari shares its price point with another absolutely brilliant pen. This pen is ubiquitous in classrooms across Germany, and for very good reason. I'm speaking of the mighty Kaweco Sport. Kaweco Sports are so much fun. They come in so many different colors, from pink pastels to blues to olive drab to black to browns. Pretty much anything that would fit your mood. And what's brilliant about these pens is that they fold into a very tiny travel size package, and in that way it protects the nib from any damage. They're extremely light. They're super fun to use. As soon as you unscrew them and post them, they become a glorious full-size pen with that incredible Kaweco nib. Nibs that are known for their performance, their smoothness, and their consistency. I probably have close to 10 Kaweco pens. I've never had an issue with any of the nibs. They're absolutely brilliant, each and every one. And I think I have every nib from a fine up to a double broad, a calligraphy nib at 1.1. Just some brilliant options, and they're all fantastic. So this pen is perfect for you, especially if you're someone who doesn't necessarily keep extreme care of your pens and just wants to have the freedom to toss it into your backpack with your books and your notepads and your iPad and not have to worry about it. Because this pen, as light as it is still very tough, very strong. It might get scratched up a little, but nothing's going to happen that you won't be able to use it. It's a fantastic, fun, durable pen for all academic occasions. The last option is the most expensive. It's between $33 and $35. And as we pack you off to go to campus, we're going to hand you one of the most perfect pens that will give you the full fountain pen experience. You may have guessed, but it's the TWSBI Eco. Now, TWSBI Ecos are fantastic fountain pens. They have absolutely brilliant nibs that flow fantastically. They're a joy to write with. The fine nib is particularly great. It has a very smooth and consistent flow. It's not in the least bit scratchy. I have two different pens with fine nibs. They're absolutely brilliant. This pen has so much value packed into that $35. You get an internal piston fill that's very efficient and allows you to buy different bottles of various inks and use whichever color you feel on those days. A personal favorite is Diamine Oxblood. It's this fantastic visceral red that's a bit on the dark side, so it holds up for contrast on the page. It's great to use. So you have many options with this pen. It's also quite beautiful. They're all basically demonstrators, which means that you can see right into the ink, know where you are in the use of the ink. So if you need to refill it, you can run off and do that. And you can also sort of change the color of your pen, if you will, with whichever ink is inside of it. It is a fantastically reliable pen, and should you get any kind of issue, it's very easy to field strip, to disassemble and clean, put back together and use again. For that reason, you can be a bit more adventurous with the different inks you put into it. You can look at ones with shimmer and sheen because you don't have to worry about clogging up your feed. It's super easy to take it apart and soak it and get it back into working order should anything happen to it, and it probably won't. The one thing I'll caution is always be careful of the fins on a feed. Just because you can pop it out easily, you still want to be mindful of them. So the TWSBI Eco is a fantastic choice to bring with you on campus this autumn. It'll keep you inspired, focused, and you'll be able to enjoy the full experience of the fountain pen lifestyle. So now I'm thinking, out of all of these, which is my favorite? If you had to put me on the spot, which one would I bring if I were going back to school to study? I'll have to say it would probably be the Lamy Safari. I would choose my Lamy Safari with the cursive italic nib. It's just fantastic to write with, and I just sort of feel in that mindset of study and contemplation when I use it. And the reason is that my handwriting looks a bit like the vintage handwriting because with that cursive italic nib, it gives you quite a bit of line variation from fat to thin, simply by using it as you would in writing cursive. And whenever my handwriting looks a bit like it's something from an old manuscript, it just inspires me to create a piece of writing, a short story, a poem, or to take some brilliant notes and look for some insight. So for me, out of all of these choices, I'm going for the Lamy Safari. So what do you think of my list? Was it complete rubbish? Did I miss one of your favorite pens? I'd love to hear which pens you would recommend for someone going back to campus this autumn. Also, I'd love to hear from those of you that are in school, high school, or university. Which pens are you bringing to class? Are people noticing? Do you get questions? I'd love to hear all about it. Let me know. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you even more for sticking around until the end. If you do me one more favor, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you would, please share this with someone else who you think might enjoy it, because I'm trying to grow our circle and get even more interesting conversations and ideas into the mix. I release new videos each Thursday at noon, so look for me then. And until then, you take care of yourself, and I'll see you further up the road.